Welcome to the second video of a series on the topic of secularization, where I'm discussing the relationship between religion and culture, and how that's changing in the world today, especially in the West. In my previous video, I discussed the topic of classic secularization theory and the main arguments for it. So if you have not seen that video, I highly recommend you go watch that before you watch this one, because in this video, I want to talk about one of the main critiques of classic secularization theory. And how I'm going to do this is I'm going to discuss an argument put forth by the American sociologist named Rodney Stark, who's been a fierce opponent of classic secularization theory. So just so we get our terms right, secularization, as defined by those who argue for it, is the long-term decline in the social significance of religion. And this has two parts to it. One, social institutions, so how religion forms social institutions in society. And the second part is personal beliefs and habits. Now, no one is denying that there is a change in the way that religion and culture is interacting in the world today, and that it varies throughout time and it's varying significantly today. But secularization theory argues that there's also a long-term decline in personal beliefs and habits when it comes to religion, and this is where the critique comes in. So if I could draw a little graph of what classic secularization theory would look like, it would look something like this. So over time, personal beliefs and habits are decreasing. And this is where Stark comes in. So he does two things. He says that, we tend to look back at the past, especially the Middle Ages, and think of it as this maybe golden age of faith. Everyone believed, everyone practiced, and Stark goes and shows that that was definitely not the case. And he shows that today we're more religious than we think. So his first part is he argues against and disproves this idea of a golden age of faith. So he shows an array of evidence from a number of medieval historians noting the lack of participation during the Middle Ages. He shows letters from priests and monks of the Middle Ages complaining about the lack of people attending Mass and complaining about the pagan influence on their beliefs. And this is similar to what a number of other sociologists have said in talking about a paradox of the Middle Ages. So we think that the Middle Ages was this very religious and sacred time, but it was also the same time when monastic life grew significantly, people becoming monks. So if we understand monastic life as this otherworldly asceticism, that is withdrawal from the world, if the medieval world was so full of the sacred, if the medieval world was so highly religious, why did people want to withdraw from it in such great numbers? So this idea of this golden age of faith is just not true. So what Stark says is it's not that the people during that time were irreligious, they were just unchurched. And a number of people lived in rural areas and did not have, obviously, the transportation we have and access to churches. So again, it's not that the people were irreligious, they were unchurched. Okay, so that's the first part of the argument, that the Middle Ages and previous times in history were not as religious as we like to think that they were. The second part is we're more religious today than we think that we are. So Stark again shows an array of studies and statistics and surveys showing that belief in God, belief in a higher power, a supernatural being, is incredibly high today, much higher than we like to think. So he says that, yes, it is true. Very few Europeans, very few Americans go to church, but also very few claim to be atheists. So his argument is that the world today is similar to Europe during the Middle Ages. We're not irreligious, we're just unchurched. And this brings up a phrase coined by a different sociologist, Gracie Davis, called believing without belonging. And that's kind of this phenomenon that we're seeing today, believing without belonging. So part of the challenge that Stark and a number of other opponents of secularization theory have pointed out, most of the people that argue, at least the ardent defenders of secularization theory, are anti-religious themselves. So they not only are just saying this is happening, they want it to happen. So many people call it more of a doctrine than an actual theory. So again, the Middle Ages was not as religious as we think it was. There never existed a golden age of faith. Today, belief is much higher than we like to think that it is, or the culture tends to put forward that it is. So that means that secularization theory is the long-term decline in the social significance of religion with personal beliefs and habits has not changed, right? We're not irreligious people, but we are an unchurched people. So I think this paints a little bit of a better picture, or starts to paint a better picture of what's going on in the world today. What I'm going to talk about in my next video is another critique of classic secularization theory, and this is the idea called American exceptionalism, where, classic secularization theory argues that as part of the world becoming more modernized, secularization happens automatically. Well, you look at Europe and you look at the United States, they all have these same features of the modern world, of modernization, yet the US is much more religious than Europe. Why is that? Well, that idea is called American exceptionalism, and I'll address that in my next video. So, as always, please subscribe to this channel and stay up to date on the new videos. Please like this video. It helps boost it and get more people to see it. I would love to read your comments and what you think about this topic, so please comment below. And as always, check out my website at culturallycatholic.org. God bless.